Hi, and welcome to My Messy Muse, a place for kidlit peeps to embrace the messiness of their everyday lives. Through interviews with fabulous kidlit talent, editors, and agents who share their own personal struggles, we will inspire your kidlit journey. I'm your host, Michelle McAvoy, an author, attorney, and mom of two whose life is really, really messy. I turn it around almost every single day, and so can you. Welcome to episode 1 of My Messy Muse. Today I had the pleasure of interviewing Joanna Rowland. She's an award-winning picture book author with Beaming Books. Her books are entitled The Memory Box, a book about grief, Always Mom, Forever Dad, and coming May 2019, Stay the Storm. Joanna talks about her inspiration for her stories, her publication journey, and she opens up about the messiest thing about her. I hope you enjoy the interview. We are here with Joanna Rowland, and she has a new picture book coming out, and I'm very excited. Joanna, thank you for taking the time with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. So you've received wonderful reviews and awards for your picture book, specifically The Memory Box, a book about grief. It's the recipient of a Children's Moonbeam Book Award. It's also the recipient of a Mom's Choice Award. It was a #1 bestseller on Amazon in your genre, in your category. So congratulations on that. That's a huge accomplishment.
Thank you so much.
So for our listeners that perhaps haven't read your book, can you tell us a little bit about it, a little bit about the story?
Yeah, it's about a child that is grieving the loss of a loved one. And so she creates a memory box to help remember her and also to help heal from that grief. And it's written in a way so it can be for whoever passed on for the reader.
Right. So it's not clear from the illustrations and from the story who, in fact, this child has lost. So it can really reach a lot of children, maybe somebody who's lost a parent, a sibling, even a grandparent.
Correct. Yes.
Right. So I love that about the book. I just read the book again before I called you. Every time I read the book, I get like a lump in my throat. I can't help it. I think anybody who has experienced some type of loss can relate to the story. Particularly, there's certain illustrations that I like the most. So I guess I want to ask you, is there a specific passage in the story or illustration that's your favorite, and why?
One of the passages I like is, today I'm asking everyone about their favorite memories of you. Silly, sweet, some just so you. I'm listening to every word, imagining you laughing with us. And I like that because I think when people pass on, one thing that people are afraid is that people will forget their loved ones.
Right.
And this encourages talking about their memories with their family and friends. And then one of my I have so many favorite illustrations. Thea Baker did such a beautiful job.
It's gorgeous. The book is gorgeous.
But one of them is, there's a scene where the child is exploring a new place, and the place she goes to is Paris. And so just the fall leaves with the Eiffel Tower, going to create new memories, in honor of the one that has passed on. I just love the colors in that.
So pretty. And I love that part of your story that you like the best. And I love this illustration as well. I think forgetting is a big concern for when you lose a loved one, especially someone that's very close to you, because you're afraid you're going to forget even the little things, the sound of the voice, the feel. So I just love that is throughout this entire book, sort of that fear of forgetting, because I think that's real. And then the making new memories is another thing. I just know when I had my loss, you almost feel guilty making new memories without that person. So I think that's a great angle that you've captured here in this book.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So, your inspiration, I know you and I, we've done a written interview, but for those that are listening, can you tell a little bit quickly about your inspiration for writing this story?
When I first started writing about grief, I had a relative that was supposed to get my book that was about divorce, and her dad passed away a month before that came out. So I knew she needed a different book. But also, when I was writing the grief story, my daughter swam synchronized swimming with a girl that I coached that got cancer, and she passed away. And I knew this book needed to honor her and, all those people somehow. So that's how it kind of came to be.
Riley, Patrick, and Mateen, please go back to class.
I apologize if you hear the school.
That's okay. I was going to say to our listeners. So Joanna is also a teacher, and we're catching her in the middle of her teaching break. We're so honored that she's spending the time with us. So we are real in live right now, everyone. So no worries, no worries. So that's sort of a very sad story. It almost seems like it was tugging at you to complete this story and to write this story with the experiences that you were surrounded by at the time.
Yes, it took me, I started writing about it in 2014, and I did not complete or sell it until 2016. So it was a long journey, and it just wouldn't let me go.
Yeah, so that's a great segue, because I wanted to ask you about the journey of getting this story published, because a lot of our listeners too are just starting out, or people that maybe have one or two and are having a difficult time getting that third or fourth. So it was a 2-year journey from writing to selling?
Yes.
And so tell us a little bit about that. So I know where you landed. You're at Beaming Books.
Yes.
But tell us a little bit about how you got there.
So when I first started pursuing writing was 2009, and I did not sell my first book until 2000. I guess I sold it in 2013, and it came out 2014. I also in 2013 got an agent, and many people don't know, except my close writing friends, but my first and only agent was Danielle Smith, and she left the industry. And during the process of me writing this book, it wouldn't let go of my heart, and she never put it out on submission, and I was kind of strung along for a year, and my writing friends convinced me, you need to leave. So in 2015, I left my agent, and then I just tried to submit this on my own, and I thought I had submitted it to every agent that took, like authors that just write, text, and houses that took unsolicited manuscripts. And then one day it was like, I was just checking in on a friend, and she had posted about this house that said, it used to be called Spark House. And I said, oh my gosh, I have not submitted to them. And by that time I had shaped it up a little bit better. And my editor, Andrew DeYoung, he just wrote me this letter that you always wish you would hear someone say about your story. And so I signed with him in 2016, and it's been the best journey ever since.
That's amazing. It's good to hear that, even when you went from having an agent to not having an agent and sort of submitting endlessly, sometimes it feels like, right, to those houses that take unsolicited manuscripts, you found the right home.
Yes, it was like it was all meant to be how it worked out. So I'm very thankful for that.
Right. So, we go on a journey with our writing, and our writing goes on a journey, right? So it's like, it's a wonder to see where it all ends. And then the editing process. So you had said that, the story started off maybe a little bit different than how it ended. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So back when I first started writing about grief, I actually wrote, it was more like a nature poem, but it was through the perspective of the person that had passed on. Okay. Kind of like a love letter back to the people that were left behind, that their love would always be with them. And I had tried submitting that first, and then it just, nothing happened with that. And then when we were going through grief with Marisa, I was thinking, and a little bit before that, like, how do you talk to children, like what would help them? And the idea of a memory box came about. And so it used to be in third person. You used to know in the story who had passed on. I've had so many different first lines for that. So, trying to find the right voice. So I think just when a story doesn't let go, just playing with different points of views, trying to get a different feel or voice. Does it sound more lyrical or is it younger? And I think I needed to go through that whole process to figure out what was the right one.
And so now, who helped you with that process? Do you have a critique group that you work with, or was it the various, maybe it was your agent at the time or the editors or all three?
So I think back when I wrote the memory box, most of my writing friends were young adult authors because I love young adult too. But so they would read it. So Jessica Taylor, she's a young adult author. She read every version I ever wrote of this, and so she was great. I do now have a picture book critique group that I drive, up the mountain to go see once a month, and they're awesome. My editor, when he got this, there was only one part he wanted just to give a little more feel to. Okay. So by the time he got it, it was almost ready to go, but he did make one page just have more depth, and which I love. My agent helped a little at the time, but I think it was during that journey writing this that I knew I needed to leave her.
Right.
But yeah, so a bit everything.
So a little bit of everything helped you sort of shape and revise into the story that it is today.
Yes.
And I think, it's important for listeners that, we all go through an editing process, right? So I think sometimes people get very protective of their work. I know that I've heard people be really sort of reticent about making certain changes and things. And I think it's important to know that in order to really get published, you have to be open to criticism. You have to be open to different ideas, and working with your story in different ways, because you may be surprised to see, what you end up liking the best.
Yes, and I did take it to a retreat, and when it was close, when I was torn between two versions, and I remember one of the leaders really wanted me to do it in third person, but in my head, I knew I had already taken it on this journey, and for it to show not, so the reader wouldn't know who passed on. Right. I knew it had to be first person. So there's a mix. I love constructive criticism where you can think, oh, that's right, I can grow from that. And then also to listen to your own intuition, like, no, like I know this is, I need to go this direction. So it's a mix of whatever you think will make your book stronger, listen to that advice. And then, go with that, go with your gut. And also reading, I forgot to mention, when I was writing about grief, I did go to the bookstore and the library just to see what was already out there. And that's where I could kind of tell there was a hole in the market. So reading in the genre you're writing is so important to being able to write in that genre too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know I spend a lot of time in the library and in the bookstore. I probably buy way too many books than I should. It's my excuse to buy books, but absolutely. I mean, reading in the genre and looking at all the new stuff that's come out, because then you really get an idea too what the publishers are looking for and what's selling.
Yes.
And then I love that go with your gut advice. I mean, I think that rings so true. You have to be open to criticism, but some things just remain steadfast in your soul about your story. That happened to me with my gorilla book. I had so many people tell me, that it shouldn't be rhyme. Nobody wants rhyme. Publishers don't like rhyme. And I'm like, and every time I tried to get it out of rhyme, it was so clunky. And, it ended up being a rhyming book and it ended up selling. So, trust your instincts, I guess, but also be open to criticism and revising.
Yes, and I'll tell you as a teacher, I love reading rhyme books. My kids love it, and then they can participate because they can anticipate what word might go with it. So, yes, go with your gut.
Right, go with your gut. And then you had said too, starting off, like sort of trying to figure out how to begin the book and how to start it off. I just love the way you started off, and I'm so glad that you brought that up because I wanted to talk about the imagery and the parallel with the balloon. I think that was amazing. I find that children can really understand and relate to losing a balloon and sort of that feeling.
Yes. When I think of my daughters, like when they were little, what made them cry? And it's like if their balloon flew up, things like that. They lost their blanket or balloon. And I liked the idea of a balloon too, because when we said goodbye to Marisa, that was one of the ways we said goodbye. So it's kind of nice to put a part of that, even though I didn't say that in the story in remembering her. It was nice to have that as part of the story.
Right, absolutely. And we have pictures, you've shared pictures of that day, and we have it up on the blog. But with the balloon, I just want to read that very beginning. It says, I watched it fly higher than the trees, above the clouds, past where I couldn't see. I was sad. And I love that too, because I remember like when my father passed, just looking up into the clouds and like saying like, where are you? Right. So just like the balloon, we sort of see our loved ones sort of going up and past the clouds and not really knowing where. But then the next sentence says, so it says, I was sad. And the next sentence says, but not as sad as I am now. I can always get another balloon, but I can never have another you. That's just like, right to my heart. That's why I get the lump, like at the very boom, you get me, the very beginning of the story.
Oh,
it's like you did a good job.
I barely made it through my my book launch, because I knew I had people there that had lost somebody, and I couldn't get through my acknowledgments at the beginning of that because I had started to cry before I even read the books. So I get better at it now, but I have to can't think of certain things or my tears do come.
Yeah. Yeah, and now, so sort of, well, how has the reactions been and the interactions been with your book and with your readers? Because I know that you've had some amazing experiences with people that have read your story.
Yeah, for me, I've never had a book that has kind of went out the way it has been going out, or taken off, I guess, in a way that this one has. And I've had 2 hospitals contact me. One uses it when they do have a child pass away in the hospital. They include this book in a box so the family can go home and make a memory box. And then I had another hospital contact me that wants to use it. They have a Remembrance Day, I believe November 3rd. And where families that have lost a loved one come back to remember, and they're going to use it to read and then to gift all those families to that book. And just reading reviews even on Amazon, just when people are remembering their lost loved ones, it it just tugs at my heart. But as a teacher, I think one of my most special stories was a student I didn't have was in another class that his mom had passed away, and he had the whole first half of the year he didn't talk about her to the teacher or his classmates or anything. And a staff member read this book to him, and then the next day he had came to school with a memory box he made, and he shared it, and I was crying that day. So I signed him a book and I gave it to him, and then he'd come throughout the rest of the year and bring me little pictures. So it's just nice to connect to a reader that in that sense that I didn't know, and just to see that it had that impact for him to be able to talk about his mom.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's important for teachers to know as well. Sometimes there may be someone in your class that's going through a loss that you're not aware of. Obviously, they would hopefully know about the loss of a parent, but I know someone who lost a very young, brother or sister, that, nobody knew that had happened to him or her. So, just, take heart that these books matter, even, in read in a classroom setting, I think, to even allow people to open up about what they're going through at home.
Yeah. No.
So I know that you're short on time because the kids are coming back to your classroom very, very soon. So before we part, I have 2 really quick questions. One, tell us the messiest thing about yourself.
My house right now. I cannot balance, when you're trying to do working, and then you got the teacher hat on, the mom hat on, the writing hat on. I just, the family hat on and going to sports and whatnot. You can't do everything good at the same time. So something has to give, and right now my house is really messy. So.
You know, that makes me feel fabulous, I have to say, because I'm in the same boat. So, and I think a lot of people are. So that's good to hear. We're not, you know, we're all messy. And then lastly, tell us about your upcoming picture book.
So May 7th, I have through Beaming Books, I also have another book called Stay Through the Storm coming out. And a year ago, I was writing through Story Storm, and I knew I wanted to write about a storm, but I had no idea what my story was. And I was driving, and I was thinking about someone that lost their life by suicide, and I just thought, I wish they stayed. And then that metaphor, stay through the storm, just kind of came in, like driving popped in my head, and I went home and I started writing it down. And I think it's one of the fastest stories, like once that metaphor came, that I wrote. But it's more about friendship through a storm. So for the kids, they're going to see a real storm, and it's about friends supporting each other through the storm. So that's my next heart book that, you know, I can't wait to share with the world.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And so that's coming out May 7th?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, we will look for it, and maybe you'll come back to talk about the new book next year.
I would love that.
Okay. Well, I'm going to let you go so you can get ready for the kids, but thank you so much for visiting with My Messy Muse, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you so much, Michelle.
Don't wait for tomorrow. Live for today.
Thank you for listening. To connect with the My Messy Muse community, please visit us on Facebook at My Messy Muse. To learn more about my books and how to work with me, please visit my website at michellemcavoy.com. That's Michelle, M-I-C-H-E-L-E, McAvoy, M-C-A-V-O-Y.com. Thanks and have a great day.
Are you ready for it? Better take your shot. It's gonna do the things that you wanna do, yeah. 'Cause this time is the right time, baby. You're the star and this is all about you. Don't wait for tomorrow. Live for today. Keep on chasing the sunshine and go out and play.